We anticipate in the next 10 to 12 years, approximately 8 to 6 million Hispanics coming into the United States and 41 million Asians. You have been the majority minority for 400 years in this country. You have been the number 2 population for 400 years. You're going to get kicked out of being number 2. You're going to go down and become number 4. Now, common sense, even a third grade education would tell you, if you didn't get anything when you were number 2, you all jumped ahead of me, but anyway, you can guess what you're going to get when you become number 4.
President Biden, do you support reparations?
Well, I mean, since I haven't spoken on this very chance, number one, the reason we're the country we are is because of immigration. We've been able to cherry pick the best from every single continent. The people who come here have determination, resilience. They are ready to stand up and work like the devil. We have 24 out of 100 children in our school today is Hispanic. The idea that we are going to walk away and not provide every opportunity for them is not only stupid and immoral, but it's bad for America. They are the future of America. Systemic racism that has plagued our nation for far, far too long. I said that over the course of the past year that the blinders have been taken off the nation, the American people. But what many Americans didn't see or had simply refused to see couldn't be ignored any longer. Those 8 minutes and 46 seconds that took George Floyd's life opened the eyes of millions of Americans and millions of people around all over the world. It was the knee on the neck of justice, and it wouldn't be forgotten. And it's not white Americans' fault, but just a fact.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farm. Not only that, today, many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they're the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with, and this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
We are owed $104 trillion on the very low end, plus $735 billion recurring. This number does not include the cost of about 50 Black Wall Streets that were decimated, nor compound interest from 2017 when Sean D. Rochester's book, The Black Tax, was published, nor the cost of Black life, nor the cost of living increases, nor the war on drugs, nor the current day pandemic. The number I'm working with is for slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives.
Good evening on the West Coast. Good evening in the mountains. Good evening in the Central. Good evening on the East Coast. You know exactly who it is, family. Angela Nirvana, your hostess with the mostest on the Reparationist Perspective, bringing you those ADOC's hot topics and making the case for reparations, making the case for weaponizing our votes and socializing our suffering. And today, I want to thank you for joining me live at the Ida B. Wells 2.0 series presents Anti-Black Racism. Yes, family, I am keeping a spotlight on our 500 votes, money. Over here, I'm ringing the alarm, family. Yes, I am. I'm on my square. I don't care who disables me. I will not be silent. Shout out to two of my staunchest allies and queens in the movement, Robin Freelix and Tanya Princess. I see you, Brian C. Johnson. Oh, yes, stop black hate. Let's talk about a hashtag stop black hate up in this piece. And it's everywhere. And that's what this show is designed to do. To keep a spotlight on the fuckery, because the lamestream media and the government on both sides of the aisle, the Democrats and the Republicans, are doing everything in their power to ethnically cleanse ADOX up out this piece. At the very least, they're trying to make us fourth-class citizens in the country our ancestors built with their lives. Welcome, one and all. Please like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. I thank you, one and all, for your donations. It's serious out here, family. They are doing everything they can to silence the new black media. They are very envious that we're getting traction in these social media streets and telling it like a TI is and telling the TR Ruth is not popular. What's up? Oh, was that my Nikki? Oh, my God. Oh, another queen in the movement, another queen comrade. The women are here. And I mean, we slinging bricks in all the spaces. I was over with Nikki in the clubhouse on, oh my God, I see the picture, but I can't recall the beautiful sister's name who was doing the new Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. Yes, I got to speak for about 10 minutes before I had to race off to another meeting. Family, we are winning. I want you to know, and I can't really say too much, but the AB 3121 Commission, let's just say, some great, wonderful things are going down thanks to the CJEC down here, the Coalition for a Just and Equitable California, formerly, well, I'm not going to say all that because I don't need no trauma and no drama. We got some amazing things cooking for the reparations for California, for the state. Oh, we doing it, family. Just because you don't hear from folks don't mean we ain't busy. They got us working day and night. Do you hear me? Okay, what about Nina, Nikki? Oh, Nina. Yes, Nina was a lovely hostess of the reading of Michelle Alexander's book, The New Jim Crow. I had to run over to the Amazon. I got so many books. I got more books than I got time to read. But you know, I've got to get back to the Miseducation of ADOX in America Book Club series. Oh, yes, that still is. But as I mentioned, family, you need to go over and join my email list at thereperspect.com because Mama is trying to make a full-time living of being the voice for the movement, okay? I am doing everything I can to get speaking engagements nationally and internationally to teach compassion and sensitivities around reparations to garner support. A lot of why we don't get as much support is because they have whitewashed the history and they don't want the truth to be told. They want the world to stupidly believe that they are white and pure as the driven snow and have done none of the heinous atrocities they have as the devil's spawn. They're trying to put everybody to sleep and get you sleepwalking to the polls. Please don't just blame the Republicans. The KKK was born in the Democratic Party. And they're only liberal in as much as they need to be to get the black vote. And then they get in office and don't do a damn thing for us. So, don't, listen, we're not going to be lulled to sleep. We're going to ring the alarm. We're going to like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. I'm going to be here. I don't care if 0 people show up. But the Reparations is where all of the videos will be archived by subscription. So if you don't catch it live, They'll be over there by subscription, selling merchandise. I'm being paid to speak. I'm doing everything I can to keep reparations at the forefront of every conversation, with the knowledge that we got a lot of work to do when 87% of our electorate shows up to the polls to vote for the Biden administration. They're trying to erase Black history, systemic racism out of history books here in Tennessee. Oh, to Jesus. I have to report on that because I heard something about that. They don't want critical race theory. They don't want the 1619 Project from Nicole Hannah-Jones. They don't want the truth. And I'm telling you, family, we've got to lean in. We're losing. Our kids are committing suicide, especially our young Black boys, at enormous rates. Let's bring it up. That wasn't on the agenda. I'm going to try to get through this program within 45 minutes. I'm going to try to leave myself a few minutes to look at your comments. But we got to talk about why it's critical. I have to add this one, y'all. Black boys committing suicide at higher rates. We're not giving our kids anything to live for. Hold on, guys. I got to bring it up because sounding the alarm on Black youth suicide. Let me see. Let me stop sharing that part, and then I'll get back to that article. Psychologists are mobilizing to address a growing crisis. This is a January 28 article. I'll read and tell you how I see it. It's a problem when these little babies don't know the richness that they come from. It is a problem that they've got preschool to prison pipelines set up for them. It is a problem that they've been redlined into environmentally racist tenement housing and communities, which are now war zones, because those communities have been the most robbed of resources. I've shared with you guys about the education and job experience I have and how I had to fight because the area that I cleaned up for gentrification was slightly marginal when I moved here, and the school is Black and brown. 4 miles down the street is a white public school. For the rich, wealthy white folks to send their kids to school for a private education with public school dollars. So they'll allow your kids to just be with their kids up until around 5th grade. Then they want to kick your kids back to the jungle. Break their spirits getting their API scores up in the jungle. While telling you, how are your kids built for that? When all they've known is cul-de-sacs and wealth and folks owning spaghettinis and all kind of carry-on, living in Benny mansions. They'll get that from K through 5, but the minute they turn 5th grade, they kick them back to the neighborhood. So although my block is gentrified, where the white folks, Hispanic, and Asians own the bigger homes. My home is a condo. They own the homes. That's very telling about the incomes and how unfair it is, even when as compared to immigrants. Okay? It's not just white folks. It's the white folks that white folks make white. Okay? Owning. I told you I put my condo on the market just to see, because a woman that owned it, a white woman, got to sell her condo for $525,000. Less square footage, less amenities than mine. I'm closer to the beach. But when they came up in my piece and saw the Blackness everywhere, my realtor advised that I take it down. Take down. You don't want any semblance of Blackness in your home, Angela. They're trying to lowball you. They want to sell to you what the last condo sold for instead of what the market will bear. They don't want to give you that money. So we got to whitewash your space. I said, I'll be damned, I'm not doing that. But back to this, and then we'll jump to that. These are 2 add-ons. Lord have mercy. Be with me. I got so much. See, I keep saying I'll be here tomorrow, but that's not true. I'm only on Monday through Thursday, 12 and 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So you won't see me tomorrow. I need a break, and I need to set up the shows for next week. I tried to save these articles, but they were too important. When it comes up on my spirit, you know how it is. Sometimes you just got to put the script down and move in the spirit. I'm moving in the spirit right now. So I got to tell you this alarming story. This year, this story was printed. Between 91 and 2017, suicide attempts among Black adolescents increased by 73%. Did you hear me? 73%. While attempts among white youth decreased, according to an analysis of more than 198,000 high school students nationwide. Other studies have shown an elevated risk of suicide among African American boys ages 5 to 11. Welcome to anti-Black racism. Get comfortable. In response to these startling findings, psychologists are boosting their efforts to address suicide by diagnosing and treating its precursors, such as trauma, depression, and anxiety, and raising awareness of the crises. Okay, let's keep reading and hope and pray. They discuss what is behind the trauma, the depression, the anxiety. You saw what happened to Ma'Khia Bryant. Both her parents are clearly living and not capable of taking care of her. She gets caught up in the social services system and gets 4 shots to the chest, trying to defend herself from 2 grown-ass ex-foster kids that lived in the home who came over there to torture her about washing the dishes. This is what's happening to our Black youth. And that's why. That is what's behind the trauma, the depression, and anxiety. Institutional systemic racism that has left them out of employment, left them in the hood, left them in war zones, left them in preschool to prison pipelines. Ma'Khia Bryant was a straight A student. Her sister threatened that if you don't remove me from that foster parent where they lived, the current one, at the time of Ma'Khia Bryant's execution, her sister promised she was going to kill everybody in the house. These are reports with the social services. Her begging to get out. Another foster child had run away several times. That's what's happening to our Black children when you remove the Black male. You remove the Black male, the Black mom can't get employment or is trying to hustle several side jobs or do whatever she can to make ends meet and ultimately can't hold on to her kids. Her inability to provide for her children make her crazy. She becomes abusive. She's in a pressure cooker. All by design of institutional systemic racism that's weaponizing immigration against us to make us take this L and eat the cost of slavery and to become 4th-class citizens in the country our ancestors built with their lives. Back to the text. In response to these startling findings, psychologists, okay, I did that one. When we have people of the same racial or ethnic group experiencing a disparity for something as tragic and awful as suicide, everybody should be concerned, says Althea E. Breland Noble, PhD, founder and board president of the African American Knowledge Optimized for Mindfully Health Adolescents Project, a research and outreach nonprofit based in Arlington, Virginia. They should be concerned, but they're not. This is a part of the ethnic cleansing I'm telling you about. And we have no boys, we have no seeds with which to produce our children. Take out the boys, take out the young men, take out the older men, take the men out. Remove them through welfare. Remove them through the private prison industrial complex. Remove them with highest rates of unemployment and underemployment. And render the women helpless and incapable of affording to manage their children. Keep them so busy with, $5 an hour gigs where they can't go back to school to improve themselves. Keep them having sex as a form of addiction, as a form of release, like you would food, weed, crack, whatever your hook is, to escape. Put the abortion clinics in their communities, because they're eventually going to do one of two things. Give us more slaves in the social services system for abuse, of rapes, all type of violent crimes being committed against these children to make them suicidal. Or we can take their babies by abortion. Margaret Sanger. Psychologists are taking action by designing interventions for schools and faith-based communities, crafting messages to encourage help-seeking and training community leaders to recognize signs of mental illness in children and teens. And in 2018, Breland Noble and other psychologists joined a working group alongside the Emergency Task Force on Black Youth Suicide and Mental Health, commissioned by U.S. Rep. Bonnie Watson Coleman and the Congressional Black Caucus to probe the worrying trend. This is problematic to me. They're all pretending like they don't know that they have systemically cut our children out of an American life, when they are descendants of the very ancestors who built the country with their lives. You rob the community of resources. It's left with black on black crimes and murder. You don't think that that somehow lends itself to trauma, to depression, to suicidal thoughts, to suicide ultimately? If I can put that together, what the hell are we paying y'all for? This is just happening by osmosis. Y'all can't see the correlation. Of course you can. You're all complicit. I have to take a drink. The working group identified major gaps in research, service providers, and prevention programs focused on mental health and suicidality among Black youths, as well as a lack of funding for future efforts. In response to the group's findings, Watson Coleman introduced the Pursuing Equity in Mental Health Act of 2019 in December, which proposes more than $1 billion for research, treatment, and prevention of efforts, when all they have to do is give them education. All they have to do is give them jobs. All they have to do is give their daddies jobs. All they have to do is give their mamas jobs. Not minimum wage, an American wage. When you give American wages, it's not more attractive to the kids to choose to join gangs in order to be protected, because their parents are making an American wage. Their mama can be home to cook them a nutritious meal. Their daddies can be there to assist. Their daddies can afford to marry their mommies. Now you've got a functional Black family in a functional home. You got mommies there that can actually be mothering their children, instead of out here doing God knows what to escape the fact that they can't be there for their children. But y'all want to give $1 billion for research, treatment, and prevention efforts. Really? When education, gainful employment, and home ownership, business ownership would suffice? It's a watershed moment, because in the 23 years that I've been doing this work, very few people will name and attend to the unique mental health needs of Black children, including government on every level, by design of institutional systemic racism. Across the board, mental health problems such as depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder and post-traumatic slave syndrome put youth at risk for suicidal thoughts and attempts. But many African American children and adolescents face additional challenges, including exposure to violence and racial discrimination that may further increase their risk, says Sherry Moloch, PhD, Associate Professor of Psychology at the George Washington University in the District of Columbia, and a member of the working group. Black youth are also less likely than their white peers to receive care for depression. Who can afford it? That's why we're dying disproportionately from COVID. Who can afford Obamacare? Who can afford Obamacare? Last count for me was around $14,000 out of pocket in 1 year if I have to be hospitalized for any reason. Who can afford that with a median national income of $41,000 and the highest rates of unemployment and underemployment amongst our group? Who can afford to receive care for depression? They have neutralized us economically. Now they're coming for the vote. And when they do not enter treatment, it's often through the juvenile justice system. And when they do enter treatment, it's often through the juvenile justice system. So our kids have to be locked up to get help. Our kids have to be broken and enter the juvenile system to get therapy, which is what makes them get into the system. Breland Noble says that white children with behavioral problems such as irritability and belligerence are often diagnosed with mood disorders, while black children exhibiting the same behaviors are seen as disruptive and requiring discipline. Like 4 shots to the chest. Rest in peace, Ma'Khia Bryant. And I spit on everyone who sits up here and says that white race soldier, inferior glacier donkey, was justified in executing Ma'Khia Bryant because she was wielding a knife. When white folks shoot at the cops, murder the cops, do all manner of things and get taken alive, I spit on you. Black folks, immigrants, and white folks alike, if you are out here defending that glacier donkey, acting as if he was well within his rights to execute that child, you are part of the problem, and I spit on you. Where we fall down as a field is that we look at the same types of behaviors in white and African American children, but diagnose them differently, she says. To address such gaps in diagnoses and service utilization, Moloch created Helping Alleviate Valley Experiences Now, Haven, a suicide prevention approach for faith-based communities. The program trains congregants to recognize warning signs of depression and anxiety, works with clergy members to incorporate messages about mental health and help seeking into Bible study lessons. Sure, give them more of white Jesus. That ought to fix it. Sunday school classes and sermons and aids churches in developing mental health resource directories. Moloch has even helped several churches establish on-site counseling centers staffed by licensed mental health professionals. If they ain't in the streets collecting these children, what's the point? These kids don't know God. They don't know that God created them on the 7th day and named them the best of all their creation. They don't know they're the face of God, the voice of God, the body temple of the Spirit of the living God. If they knew that, they'd be able to overcome these issues. So what's the point in training churches? I don't see these churches in the street collecting broken children, doing anything to help these mothers. I don't see it. Chat it if you do. Maybe y'all got somebody helping. Others are studying barriers to mental health services in Black communities that prevent suicidal youth from getting the support they need. Concrete barriers such as the cost of care, lack of health insurance, unreliable transportation, and a dearth of providers are a big part of the problem, says Inger Burnett Ziegler, PhD, clinical psychologist and associate professor of psychiatry and behavioral sciences at Northwestern University's Feinberg School of Medicine. But psychological factors, including mistrust of the mental health care system, doubt about the effectiveness of medical treatment, and shame around health seeking also play a role. To overcome some of these barriers, Burnett Ziegler leads mental health one-on-one training seminars in Black communities. She helps teachers, youth leaders, and other community members learn to recognize signs of depression and trauma and the benefits of turning to mental health professionals in such circumstances. Okay, that's enough of that. I got too many other things I want to touch on. Welcome to the live, y'all. Please like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. Yeah, it is sad. Okay, so like I was saying, how critically important it is for the reparations, which starts with education. They don't want us to rally support around the reparations. That would happen if the truth were told, if history was being taught truthfully. So we were talking about how discrimination, anti-Black racism when it comes to home ownership, when it comes to Black suicide rates. It's more than just the race soldiers. It's all over everywhere. A Black couple's home value skyrocketed after a white woman pretended to be the homeowner during an appraisal. I was in the midst of sharing with you guys about how they came into my property and saw the Blackness everywhere and wanted to lowball me. But they gave the white woman $525,000 for, with less amenities, farther away from the beach, and less square footage than my condo. Let's get into it. Hold on. They want everything. A Black couple living in the Bay Area discovered their house was actually worth hundreds of thousands more than they had been told after a white friend stepped in and posed as the homeowner. Paul Austin and his wife, Tanisha Tate Austin, purchased their Martin City home in 2016. After completing around $400,000 worth of renovations and updates to the house, they put it back on the market. The Austins added an entirely new floor, a deck, and updated old appliances, according to ABC7. An appraiser who visited the home to assess the value of the property said it was only worth $989,000, just $100,000 more than when they originally purchased it. Despite the renovations, adding an additional 1,000 square feet to the home. Quote, I read the appraisal, I looked at the number, I was like, this is unbelievable, Tanisha Austin told the Atlantic Black Star. So the Austins decided to perform an experiment. A white friend of theirs posed as the owner of the home, adding photos and personal touches to make it seem like she lived there, and called in another appraiser to evaluate the house. The second appraiser said the house was worth, drum roll, $1,482,000, about 50% more than the initial appraisal. The Austins say that their experience with the appraiser is symptomatic of a larger pattern of discrimination in the housing market. In August, the New York Times reported on a similar situation in which a mixed-race couple found that their home appraisal went up by 40% when all signs of Black ownership were removed. That's what I was advised to do by my realtor. I refused. Because to tell you the truth, this will be a nice retirement income. I practically own the condo. So you're talking with this kind of access to the beach, $2,500 to $3,000 a month. So I might as well keep it in my portfolio before I take somebody's lowball offers because I'm Black. Anti-Black racism, welcome. The practice of redlining, in which household lenders denied loans and home ownership to people from certain demographic backgrounds in order to control the racial makeup of a neighborhood, wasn't outlawed until 1968, but its effects continue to be felt more than 50 years later because it's still being practiced. It's still being practiced by different names, as is slavery, the private prison industrial complex, as is affirmative action. It benefits white women, immigrants, and LGBTQIA, while telling us no to quotas that are needed in order for us to even get a shot. There are implications to our ability to create generational wealth or passing things on if our house appraises for 50% less than its value, Tanisha Austin told Atlanta Black Star. Marin City, where the Austins live, is a historically Black community located just north of San Francisco. A 2015 report on the city said that encroaching gentrification threatened to destroy the culture of the community, especially as older residents of color passed away and their younger relatives were unable to maintain their mortgages. Why is that? With a median national income of $41,000 to white folks' median national income of $65,000 to Asian folks' median national income, who are predominant up in the Bay, of $87,000, excuse me. How in the world, if the older residents pass away, can their younger relatives maintain the mortgages and the property taxes? Redlining in a whole nother way. You neutralize us economically where we can't even afford to compete. There was not one Black that came by to look at my condo when it was on the market. They cannot afford to if you're $200 liquid. Per the Commonwealth LA report from 2004-2014. I don't know what it is since COVID. White folks, Indians, Asians, and Hispanics came to see this property, but wanted to lowball me based on what another unit sold for instead of what the market would bear. Because I'm Black. I'm ADOX. How dare I be able to live this well? But for the grace of God. Next, moving on. Hate crimes against Black residents rose at alarming rate in 2020. Welcome to the live. This is your anti-Black racism report. Keeping a spotlight on our 500+ year Holocaust. Reported hate crimes against Black residents in Vegas more than doubled in 2020, which activists attribute to a rise in racism nationally and more knowledgeable among victims about their rights to rep. We hope you appreciate our content. Okay, let's see what they're talking about. This is the Las Vegas Review Journal. I think this is one that Brian shared with me. Okay, I don't see where the article is. It's not over here in full. Okay, I'm gonna have to get back to that one. Let's move on. It's kind of like they're briefing you about the Las Vegas Review Journal, and they're giving you that highlight, but I don't see where to click to get the full story. So I'm gonna move on to one that's gonna take a minute anyway. Hold on. Let me pull it up, family. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. I'm looking for this one about how these white folks get away with all manner of things when it comes to the violent white folks who were taken into custody with loving care by the police. Yeah. Only in America can police respond to separate calls for similar incidents and have two drastically different results depending on the race of the suspect. A variation of that dichotomic truth continued to play out in real life on Tuesday afternoon when a suspected white supremacist allegedly killed at least 8 people in 3 separate shootings in Georgia that bore all the hallmarks of a racist attack against Asians. Robert Aaron Long, the prime suspect in the apparent hate crime near Atlanta, was considered armed and dangerous when he briefly led the police on a car chase prior to his arrest. Amazingly, however, despite Long allegedly killed in cold blood in what appeared to be calculated attacks against people based on their ethnicity, the suspected mass murderer was taken into custody without incident. This is not about training or lack thereof. This is about our blackness and the goal to make us fourth-class citizens in the country our ancestors built with their lives and to make us eat the cost of slavery. To extinct us, basically. For perspective's sake, police killed George Floyd over nonviolent allegations surrounding a purported counterfeit $20 bill. The examples of the difference along racial lines and law enforcement reactions to similar reports of crime keep pouring in. One glaring instance of law enforcement not being nearly as trigger happy with white people as they are with black suspects came courtesy of a viral video on social media. While it was unclear when, where, and why a violent encounter happened between a store patron and a police officer, it was very clear that the cop never once felt threatened enough to use lethal force. Let's talk about it. I need to show it. I won't show the violence committed and perpetuated against us, but I will show how they get away with all manner of things. And they get taken alive. And the police begging them to please behave. I don't want to have to. I don't want to. Let's look at this together. Let's observe this video. Let me share the audio. Let's watch the puckery. Oh, hold on. Just a second, guys. Let me start it over because I don't hear the volume. You notice he's about the height of George Floyd to Chauvin. Moving on. I hope y'all can see and hear that. Oh, wait, it wasn't really big enough. Did you guys see that okay? I sure hope so. Let me try it again. I'm going to put it on the full screen when I share it this time. So I'll disappear momentarily. That must have been too small the way I had that frame set up. This will be quick. Just in case white folks want to check out the puckery. They look like they want to make love. He's not in a prone position, no knees on his neck. Back to the text. 6:48. Precious, if I don't get through this, we'll finish it on Monday. Precious context was missing from the video, which began recording as a cop and suspect were already grappling in an aisle of what appeared to be a liquor store. The cop who employed a leg sweep takedown of the suspect likely learned from department's training, exercised the kind of restraint rarely if ever seen with nonviolent black suspects like Jacob Blake, who was unarmed when he was shot in the back multiple times at point blank range as he tried to enter his car in Kenosha, Wisconsin. The video ended with a cop handcuffing the suspect who had already clearly assaulted the officer. We're done looking at that video. In Florida, a self-described Trump-supporting white supremacist with a huge swastika tattooed on his chest caused a racist disruption at a restaurant, threatened to sexually assault one woman, and then physically attacked another. When the police finally arrived, there was no brutality to be seen, no reckless shoving of the suspect's head into a squad car. Instead, there was some jovial joking taking place as the suspect, identified as Nicholas Arnold Schock, was carefully eased into the back of a police cruiser. Let's see if we can look at that video. Let me share. I'm exposing it all. Since the mainstream media refuses to, Ida B. Wells 2.0 don't have a problem showing all of the puckery. Let's look at it.
Stop. Facebook, they know me. Anyway. Yeah, you blocked in, yeah. Hey, Sarge, if you haven't already, do you have us to come in? I don't see you. Stop. Facebook, they know me. Anyway. Yeah, you blocked in, yeah. Hey, Sarge.
Let's see if there's more to that. Hold on. Come back over. I think there might be something else to that one. Hold on. Well, where did it disappear to? Hold on, guys. Well, when I close that video, close the article. Give me a second. Okay. Let me see this other link to see if it's more to that. It's just unconscionable. Has nothing to do with training, is my point. These race soldiers are hired to only execute us. Graphic video. Here we go. Let's see. Oh, no, that's the only one they have. I was looking for the actual video of the event that took place. Let's see here. Okay, let's share this one. Oh, go back. Let me stop. I forgot the audio. Hold on, guys. Thank you for joining the live. Please like, share, subscribe. Turn on your notifications. Hold on. Let me turn on the audio.
I swear to God, take my keys. Call Donald Trump. He's going to come get me out of prison. You not call Donald Trump right now. I'm a white supremacist. The Aryan nation will rule the world. People covered in tattoos are going to be my closest relatives. I promise
we got
you.
children in here.
I don't give a fuck. Call Donald Trump, please.
Come on, son.
You know Donald Trump. If you don't know Donald Trump, I'm not going nowhere. I will butt fuck this bitch on the table right now.
Sarah,
Please, somebody
Sarah.
call Donald Trump. I'm not playing this game anymore, you fucking pussy bitch. Here's my son. I didn't know I'm the clown. I'll kill you. Swear to God, I'll do it. You fucking just defend my friends.
Don't choke him. Don't choke him. Don't choke him.
The biggest thing in the world. My brother such my dick, child. I swear to God.
Yeah, that's the one that was placed gingerly inside of the cop vehicle. Yeah. That's the one that was taken carefully while they were chuckling as they placed him in the cruiser. Every time I close that video down, it shuts my article down. Let's get back to it. Okay. We may have to finish this on Monday. It's pretty lengthy. A lot more videos to show you. Okay. Let's see here. What's the story? A variation. Okay. Instead, Jeffrey Nichols will be able to have his day in court to defend himself against the capital murder charges he now faces for killing 2 deputies from the Concho County Sheriff's Office. Let me go back. I'm sorry, I think I jumped. Okay. A variation of that dichotomic truth continued to play out in real life on Monday night when a white man shot and killed 2 police officers and injured a city worker in Texas before he was able to be safely apprehended without law enforcement resorting to using lethal force. Instead, Jeffrey Nichols will be able to have his day in court to defend himself against the capital murder charges he now faces for killing 2 deputies from the Concho County Sheriff's Office. They engaged in a shootout with Nichols after the 28-year-old fled as the deputies responded to a complaint about a dog, according to local news outlet KTXS. Nichols reportedly resisted arrest by fleeing in his car and barricading himself in his home in the town of Eden before the deadly shootout broke out. Eden's mayor ultimately convinced Nichols to surrender after about 30 minutes. Did that story. I was trying to find the video on that one. It's not there. I have to look that one up. Let's move to the next story. The gentle arrest of that fool that just pimp slapped the woman. It was a far cry from say how Baltimore cops treated Freddie Gray before he sustained his deadly injury in the back of a police van over suspicions about a penknife. In another stunningly similar example, an armed white man who allegedly shot and injured a police officer after barricading himself in a home during a contentious standoff with law enforcement managed to be peacefully arrested in North Hollywood, California in June. Police responded to a reported active shooting and somehow miraculously took the armed man into custody without resorting to the lethal force we see officers use so many times with unarmed Black people. Let's look at the video. Oh, they don't have that video. Let's see. No, that's not a video. That's a text, a Twitter. The incident in West Hollywood came nearly 2 weeks after a suspected double murderer, who was also accused of a range of other violent crimes, was safely taken into custody without the police resorting to any violence, let alone lethal force. Peter Manfredonia was arrested in Maryland 6 days after he allegedly killed a 62-year-old man with a machete, held another man hostage, stole the hostage's guns and vehicle, killed a former classmate, kidnapped the former classmate's girlfriend in her car in Connecticut. The Hartford Courant reported that police said no one was injured when he was arrested. He's also a white man, which likely explains his life being spared by members of a profession that have typically responded with deadly intentions to Black people suspected of lesser crimes, if any at all. It was a stark contrast to the reports of police shooting unarmed Black people who were not suspected of multiple murders and leading police on an interstate chase for nearly a week. Oh, and who can forget about how Ahmaud Arbery's accused killers, father and son Gregory and Travis McMichael, who were on video shooting the jogger, were gently handcuffed during their arrest. The treatment stood in stark contrast to the video circulating on social media showing how police were responding to nonviolent Black people accused of violating social distancing guidelines during the onset of the coronavirus pandemic. We'll pick up with Roger Hethpeth on Monday. Let me see what you have to say about it before I close this out. Hi, Lady K. Hi, DH. Welcome to the live, my loves. Brian says Tim Scott said America is not a racist country because he's getting butter biscuits by white conservatives. Kamala and Clyburn agree because they're getting buttered biscuits by white liberals. Ratchet. And Michelle Obama is crying black white supremacist tears behind all the puckery and including her in the puckery. She inserted herself. Talking about she's afraid that Sasha Malia could be shot in the back of the head while driving. Don't they have chauffeurs? Don't they have ass wipers? Don't they have everything at their disposal? They're worth $135 million between she and Barack Obama. Cynthia Adeyame, welcome to the live, my love. Post-traumatic slave syndrome. That's right, babe. Mortality attributed to drug overdose among blacks in Montgomery County, Ohio, has doubled since 2010. Thank you for sharing, Cynthia. It's a cycle of economic disenfranchisement and psychological warfare. Then the oppressor class will have the nerve to say he, she was a product of their environment. An environment that they created. They create the problems and then want our votes to be the solution while not solving anything at all, where ADOX is concerned. Reparations for ADOS is a public health intervention at the tertiary prevention level. Cynthia, you ain't never lied, my sister. Cynthia says, sounds like mental health first aid. Oh, Brian, I think you have to send it to me in my Gmail. I'll do it tomorrow. For some reason, I had the article open, and then it was just the storyline. I don't know what happened, but the show must go on. On the scuffle in the liquor store, officer knows he didn't want to go too hard on the Uncle Phil, who was probably just having a bad day. Hi, Lady K Love. Welcome, love. I see you, fam. Brian says, wow, a real pillar of the community. A hot, sloppy Aryan mess. Brian says, I heard about Michelle worrying about her daughters simply damage control to deflect from what Clyburn and Harris said about America not being racist. Then how come, if it's damage control, where were you on the front lines? Where were you at the George Floyd protests? All the protests that have been cropping up all over the country. Now you're trying to act like you're on code. When your husband gave blue alert laws to protect the blue lives and sang Amazing Grace when 9 of ours was executed by race soldier Glacier Donkey, white inferior Dylan Roof. Where were you then? Singing. Robin says they actually let a mass shooter get away for 24 hours after he shot those black people in the Waffle House here in Tennessee, and the guy was partially naked. I want to thank you one and all for joining me here on this segment of Ida B. Wells 2.0 series presents Anti-Black Racism, where I keep a spotlight on our 500 plus year Holocaust and counting, because we were here before 1619. You guys have got to watch Exterminate All the Brutes by Raoul Peck, HBO. 4-part series about how these glacier donkeys get down, even amidst their own. Hitler learned from America with 3 Ks, ethnic cleansing of the indigenous people, of which we were amongst. That's how Hitler learned. We were the play out of the play America with 3 Ks playbook to teach Hitler. And now Israel concerning Palestine, how to ethnically cleanse a whole people out of existence. If we don't wake up, that will be our legacy. They will be reading about 37 million down to 3 in the history books. if that truth is ever allowed to be told. I'll see you back Monday at noon for your midday wake-up call, Pacific Standard Time, and then again at 6 p.m. for more anti-Black racism. Until then, family, you make it a beautiful, God-inspired rest of your evening and weekend. Know that I love you Black and strong. Know that the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever Adox and his allies are, God truly is, because family, you are the face of God. You are the voice of God, the body temple of the Spirit of the living God. You go out here in these streets, show the world who you really are. Peace.